Just raise your hand. Okay. So we'll try to make it practical, we'll try to make it tangible. As was mentioned, I'm responsible for trust over AI services in the CE region. Maybe Jirko, for your introduction quickly.
Jury, CTO of Kabula, we over the decade are helping businesses to make insights from the data and automate on the top of that now, obviously with AI running all these things that are now in sexy. Patrick.
Good. So what we want to achieve in the next 20-30 minutes is to take you on a journey, to look ahead a little bit, and try to answer one very specific question. And that is, how do you govern and manage your AI in the organization as AI scales? And as was said, I would argue, and we would argue, that it is AI itself that helps you do that in the future. And we hope to do that by showing you a practical example of what that could look like in practice. Let's start with today, with 2025. If you go on LinkedIn or social media, very likely you'll hear a message or see a message that AI has already revolutionized everything. You're saving a ton of money, AI is adopted, everybody's using it in your day-to-day, processes look very different. I would argue from where we sit in the market is that that's not entirely true. The ROI is sometimes difficult to identify, it's difficult to get a sense of what is the business case. So if I look at organizations today and I exclude those most innovative and I exclude those that are completely resistant to change, I would argue very likely an average AI organization has 3 distinct cases now that they're experimenting with. One of them is definitely personal productivity. This isn't new. Everybody's here is using GPTs and co-pilots and different tools to support your day-to-day, your calendars, your bookings, your meetings. And this is something that most organizations have already started doing. 2, you have probably already started looking at RAG. Those of you who know who that is, raise your hand. Retrieval augmented generation, so it's an AI search on steroids, if I put it that way. It's really taking your whole context of documents and knowledge management that you have in your organization and putting an AI on top of it to really reduce the error margin, to make sure that when you find information, it is accurate. It's often used in manufacturing, it's often used in safety, security, but also in finance or legal, or agendas where there's no room for error. And 3, organizations typically find 1, 2, 3 pilot use cases. Maybe they buy them from outside, maybe it's solution as a service, or they build it themselves. One example is on the screen. You can see geniusly designed by AI itself, which is an HR recruitment assistant. And those are your typical first starting points. But I want to make an argument and look ahead a little bit. Just as you've gone through the transformation in your business intelligence space, and 15 or 10 years ago even, you would have 1, 2, 3 different dashboards or reports, BI world is now completely transformed. It's low code, it's fast, you can generate reports and dashboards very, very quickly, and everybody has access to those solutions. I would argue that by 2030, we'll get to that same space. And that growth will have 2 dimensions. One dimension will be, of course, the quantity of the tools that you'll have, but second is variety. Just think now of the tools that are available to you. You can build your own assistants and agents in large platforms such as Azure or Google or Amazon, or you can build them yourselves with your own architecture, your own developers, your own application. Or you can buy them, and even if you buy them, you can tweak them or take them as is, and that complexity will rise, and you'll have many of these in the future in your organization. But the best way to demonstrate what we're trying to show you here today of how you govern this at scale is to look at one specific example. That example that we selected for today is a simple solution at first glance. An AI invoice auditor, think of it as an application, a solution that acts as an autonomous agent that supports your finance operations. That finance operations means you are able to manage the process of payments, extension of due dates, communication and discussion with the vendors. You can assess credit risk scores all in one place, supported with AI. So this is the case we'll look at. And now I'll hand over to Jukka, who'll show you that demo, and we'll come back to the governance argument in a minute.
Yeah, so now we do something that is really difficult to do on the stage. It's a live demo, so it usually doesn't work, so we'll see how it goes today. So you have a finance team, they have a process, payment receivables, where they collect payments from the customers, suppliers, whatever you run. Yeah? You probably very well know its process. And then you have companies who have a difficulty in the supply chain, maybe they have a cash flow issue or there's a flooding in certain area, and they request payment, postpone the payment due, and they sending to your accounting team that they would like to extend the due of the payments, and then your accounting team currently very likely processes very manually. So we have created with our team in the United States for one of our customer restaurant brand international owners of Popeyes and Burger King, an AI agent that is processing these requests autonomously. Yet, in the area where people will still like to keep control, either from regulatory perspective or not, it's not still autonomous. That is at the end human decision, but the human is very much assisted and recommended by AI. So what you can see is a management dashboard. You can see it, for example, on the screens with your team to see how the process operates. You can see that there are currently 30 pending requests. The data are synthetic, so it's not the real data of the customer. There is a requested amount on average $30,000 to be postponed due. There is some prioritization and statistics about how the process is executing. So then you can imagine you are an operator, you would like to go through it, so there is a request from Prime Logistics, sent from them, sent to my company, and they're going like, oh, I'm sorry, we have a cash flow issue, I would like to request the postponement, and then we have AI recommending that's okay, it doesn't really create an exposure, we can approve it. Yeah? And then you scroll down, there is an explanation, there is a lot of controls. You put there liquidity of your company, then it collects the data about past payments, how the vendor was good, if he paid later on time and already requested payment due, etc., etc. And with that, it actually calculates overall risk score for your company, and based on your risk appetite, which is set by risk managers from your company, it creates confidence level, and then it waits for a decision. So you as an operator go like, it's okay, I can approve it. It even generates an email that is approved, and with one click, I can send it back to the company. Takes me 5 seconds. Usually, this job takes a number of minutes because you need to collect the data from multiple sources, understand the vendor profile, look at the dashboards, etc., etc. This agent does everything for you. You can imagine that there's a one step now that we can fully automate it, but we believe that there needs to be still some of the cross-check and balances, and having a human factor in it still takes place. Back to you, Patrick.
Great, thank you very much for the demo. And I want us to think for a minute about, and we can go back to the PowerPoint. Thank you. I want us to think about for a minute around what is actually behind a solution like this. What are the layers that are in an AI system that we just saw? Layer one, this is very summarized and consolidated for today, but layer one, of course, is data. So every single piece of information that is fed to the assistant. Data from your ERP, so structured data, tables with columns and rows, but also maybe documents, PDFs, emails, open text, from your wiki, from your SharePoint, from a variety of different places, all sits in your data foundations layer. The minute that data connects to a model, we get to an AI core. This is where maybe the solution requests an an AI model like GPT or Claude or Gemini to do something on top of that data. Provide a recommendation, draft an email. So your core is where data meets AI. And then of course is the experience, is what Jirka showed you. It's the tool itself, is the product, it's the view on how you and me and everybody else would interact with that solution. So my question is, what can go wrong in this ecosystem? Well, you have data risk as number one. Who here feels confident that all your data in your ERPs are 100% quality? Just raise your hand. I knew this would happen. But you have incomplete data, you have accuracy issues, integration issues. There are a lot of things that we perhaps don't think of when we think of a data source that is fed to the agent. You have development risk, or in other words, if we take the data from the source system and we take it through transformations and aggregate them, consolidate and put them together and create new tables, is that process accurate? I would imagine it is, but we're people and people make mistakes. And so you could be missing recent payments data, and hence you have a quality issue on the other end of it. Model risk, maybe the data is biased and the model is making an incorrect assumption and recommends to approve that request from your vendor, but actually it's based on incorrect sort of prerequisites on that. So model risk. I would argue here is where you have less control, but still ways that you can govern the middle layer of this. Security. Yesterday, Michal Wojnar from PwC spoke about security as well. Access management. It's an entirely massive topic that should be part of this conversation. And of course, transparency and usage. So imagine you as the user of this solution, you need to be of full understanding of what the output is, how it works, how you use it, what do you do with that output afterwards. So it's about education, it's about literacy of using AI. And this is not everything that can go wrong. And just think of the people in your organizations. If you're the Chief Information and Security Officer, I think you worry about security. If you're a Chief Data or Digital Officer, I think likely you think of data and the outputs. If you are an AI Manager, Director, Chief AI Officer, you probably are worried about how this is all coming together in the AI core. Multiple actors, multiple risk touch points, multiple solutions by 2030. So how does that scale? How do you do that in an automated way? And this will seem like a very big brothery slide, but I'm coming back to the point I made at the start, that we argue that it's AI itself that helps us govern this ecosystem in the future, to apply some of these controls, to apply some of these checks, and that's the message that we're trying to convey here today. So in other words, if I take the same structure we used before, if this isn't an AI invoice auditor, but it's your AI governance agent, why couldn't it look at all the other AI tools you have and provide you with an insight? Instead of collecting your ERP data, it could look at the behavior and prompts and logs from the other agents. Instead of sending those invoices to an LLM, a large language model, it could be sending those logs and running checks to produce outputs that you, of course, in the experience layer then consume. You see about performance, you see about errors, you decrease the risk of making an incorrect decision significantly. So the governance, and it's not the sexiest word. When you hear governance, you think about policies and guidelines and methodologies, but it could be solutions as well. It could be very easy fixes and controls that you apply side by side with your actual AI assistant that helps you with your business needs. And so, let's have a look.
Yeah, so, standing on the stage with PwC, you probably understand and have experienced. Your organization has some procedures, guidelines. Internally, then you have probably some risk department setting up your risk appetite. It also reflects in your guidelines and procedures. Then you have some regulations you need to be compliant with. We have Europe being famous for regulations all over, and then you have our friends auditors coming from time to time to check all the processes and how you do with that. Yeah. So imagine that when in the age of the AI, you will have AI agents working autonomously, generating tons of events that, I have approved this invoice based on this information, I have improved, this process, payments, etc., etc. You need to make sure that on the same scale that you will be able to deploy AI in the future, you will also have a governance at scale. So when we come back to our process, so you can still see the dashboard. I have processed already one request for the tethering of the page view, and then I need to make sure that our auditors, either internal or external, have also access to see how this process is being executed and how the compliance of this process is being adhered to. Yeah? So ideally, I don't want to do it manually, I don't want to have my team. So for this case, we have set up three rules that we have. You can imagine then that they are those organizational procedures or external governance rules that are imposed by you on regulations, GDPR, etc. And then you need to monitor if your process on the scale, approving thousands of requests every day, is being adhered to. So you can see very simply, there is the, for example, classification rule that all checks has been done for each of the criteria that AI went through, and make sure that everything is recorded and is adhered to, so this process check was passed. However, we see that there is some warning in compliance check, and you can clearly see that there is some manual review required for cross-border payments in the processes that we currently run. And you can imagine this, again, as an AI agent being deployed in the area of compliance of your company that is accessing all the logs from the processes. And you as an observer or representative of humans, you want to have check over this, and you also want to understand what is going on and what are the actions that you are supposed to do or execute. And then you can imagine it will throw the ticket to some team to fix either the process or the documentation or anything on the top of that. So again, another AI agent that is monitoring your AI processes. Patrick?
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think what is important to mention here, while this is still on the screen, if you scroll a little bit lower, is that this doesn't need to be static. Because very likely and definitely you already have IT controls in place, but IT controls are broad. I would bet that part of those IT controls at the moment are not checking performance of AI-specific insights for a specific use case, or checking the quality outputs as we do often implement in data governance and data quality projects. So the controls and findings that you see here, yes, they work here for this kind of solution, but you can think of it as one governance agent that covers a range, and then you mix and match of what makes sense. For those use cases that have zero room for error on the back of it, this would be more robust. For those that are much more light or lower risk, I imagine this governance agent wouldn't need to be that robust. So think of it as an agile ecosystem. Don't think of it as one set of rules that forever and always I'll apply to every AI system, because every AI system going forward will be different.
And also, if I may, every organization has different risk appetite based on the type of the organization. If you are running services for financial institutions, you likely understand how prudent they are. If it is for a company on the retail, that's probably less risk appetite on their side, etc., etc. So, you need to also understand that AI should understand your organization and your risk appetite and your procedures and your compliance regulatory framework, if any.
Great, and we'll try to conclude. This is the key message that we wanted to introduce to you today, and I just want to make this into some kind of a an action for you on the back of this. I think the whole message we're trying to say here is that do not worry about experimenting or pushing the AI pilots forward, but make sure that there is an automated control on the side of it. And often when we talk to clients, they imagine this as a massive project that will take 6 months of writing policies and guidelines. And yes, you can go that path, but it can be also done in a way that in parallel to your innovation of AI, you just slowly scale your governance layer to make sure that they complement each other. The same rule we try to apply in business intelligence, where in every dashboard, ideally you have one more tab that just gives you quality checks, to give you that confidence that when you see that dashboard, you know that the numbers there are correct. And so key message is, if you want to start, pick one manual process in your organizations today, try to think of how to improve it, think of the need you have, and of course, something like an AI invoice auditor could be the answer, but do it in parallel to this platform level governance. Talk to your teams, align security and privacy in your data teams and IT to make sure that there is a system that checks your other systems. And then you can scale that AI portfolio safely. Thank you very much. I hope that you found this interesting. We couldn't follow up to Tomáš Šebek and the really incredible insights from him, but I hope this gives you something practical, some demo, something clickable to take away and to see that it is possible to implement and scale AI in a sustainable way. Thank you very much.
Thank you.